Today I'm at a garden I've been looking forward to visiting for years, and I don't think it's an exaggeration to say that this is one of the most highly regarded vegetable gardens in the world. And it's all down to the humble yet famous gardener who's created it over the past decade, Charles Dowding. Charles, hello.
Oh, hi, Ben.
For those who don't know him, Charles is the absolute granddaddy of no-dig or no-till gardening, which is the very simplest yet most effective way to grow vegetables that more and more gardeners are adopting. This guy has a wealth of knowledge and experience built over years of experimentation, so I think we're going to learn a few things today. I can recognise this straight away. This is the dig and no dig bed, which is kind of the hub of proving your point that you don't need to dig the soil. Why no dig, for those who might not appreciate that?
Well, it's partly why I've got this experiment here. It's for me to learn more about soil and about digging, actually, because I don't do it much. This is the only dig bed in the whole place. And it's teaching me a lot about why I do no dig, which is that we get earlier, more abundant crops, as you can see. This is no dig here, dig bed there. We get better drainage in wet weather. We get fewer slugs. And also I had to replace quite a few lettuce on the dug bed because the slugs have been much more damaging there compared to
So do you think by digging the soil you're creating more sort of crevices and cracks for the sort of slugs to hide in? Is that the kind of theory?
I think it's more to do with biology, that you're damaging things like the ground beetles which eat slug eggs. I mean, I've only learnt that myself in the last few years. You know, I've kind of done this without necessarily knowing all the details why, but I've discovered more and more of the reasons, and soil analysis showing how you get a better crumb structure. So that's why rain flows through better, but why it also holds moisture better and roots can get in there more easily.
And I guess adding all the organic matter on top, not digging it, you're getting a lovely kind of rich, spongy kind of texture, aren't you? That sort of, drains better, I guess, in wetter weather, but also retains the moisture better. Yeah.
It's fantastic for clay soils. You know, people often ask, oh, does no dig work on clay? But actually that's the best soil for it, because it makes life so much easier for you. And actually clay soil is really good. It's just difficult to work.
Charles, I can really see the difference here with these luscious kind of fulsome onions here. And these guys, which will catch up, I'm sure, but you reckon that's obviously because you've not dug this bed and the organic mass is just added on top in what, sort of the autumn or winter for these beds here? What's the...
December.
December, okay.
Yeah, it's kind of copying nature. You know how you've got a leaf fall or plants dying, but it never gets dug in. It's the same amount of compost in both beds. So that one has the compost dug in, 2 wheelbarrowfuls for this much, and that one has it on top. But I had a PhD researcher here recently, and he was looking at the carbon content of these 2 beds, and guess what? That one has a lot. It has 14%.
14? Wow.
Yeah, compared to farmland would be about 2% if you're lucky.
That's incredible.
And maybe pasture land might be 5 to 6%. So 14 there, but this one has 18%.
18%? That's crazy.
And that's from the same amount being added every year.
So what's happened to the 4% difference? Just could have gone back into the...
I think it's lost in oxidation through the digging process.
Yeah. So I suppose like carbon is the biggest visual sign of that of how well this is working, because it's staying in there, that carbon staying in the soil, and that's obviously helping with all the soil life and so on. Yeah,
exactly. Carbon is the building block of plant growth, of everything in the soil. It's the fuel for soil organisms. So the more we can have in the soil, as I understand it anyway, the better.
Makes sense. These beds here pretty much sum up the entire case for no dig or no till gardening. Charles, you're telling me that this row here is forked and disturbed to help aerate it, the traditional kind of folklore, if you like, and then the rest is no dig. What's the difference here between yields?
Well, this is, in the first 10 years of doing this, we've harvested 8% less from where we fork the soil. Just putting in a fork once a year to loosen or aerate.
Isn't that funny? Because you feel like your gut's telling you, well, that's the right thing to do. You're introducing air, you're loosening it up. That has to work, surely.
Probably breaking the mycelial network. You know, it's shattering a lot of fungal threads that we now know are really important.
You say that vegetables like growing in little groups together, don't they? They're like companionship. And,
they're like friends. And for me, that's companion planting, if you like. You know, it's a companionship of being close to another plant.
Absolutely, yeah. You're a bit of a troublemaker in the vegetable growing world, because you like to sort of blow up myths and all sorts, and one of those is crop rotation, which is a little bit controversial. These potatoes here, they've been grown in the same piece of ground for how many seasons?
This is year 10.
Year 10, that's insane.
I grew up on a conventional dairy farm, and I have to almost fight myself a bit every spring. I'm planting the potato in the same place. And yet, over 9 years of doing that, the health of the plants has not deteriorated at all. It's been great harvests. The harvests haven't gone down. And I even keep my own potato seed from the harvest to replant.
Wow.
A bit concerned about allium leaf miner, which has only just arrived here.
Yeah.
And I don't quite know, when we get a new pest, you know, how does one
Yeah.
adapt to it? In fact, the lettuce beyond there, that's the 8th year in a row of lettuce in the same place. And
Right,
again,
yeah,
super healthy plants.
They
Last
look
year we
so
got
healthy.
62 kilos from that amount of plants.
62 kilos?
Yeah.
That's like, I mean, that's the weight of an adult, isn't it?
Person,
That's
in
mad.
lettuce.
This is the hub of the garden, obviously, and look at this thermometer. It's at 65 Celsius. What's that in Fahrenheit? Well, it's very hot, that's what it is. One of the questions I want to ask, this is got so much organic matter on it, and you add what, sort of an inch or 3 centimetres every year. Do you produce all of it yourself? Because obviously a lot of the food's being eaten and going off-site with people. How much of it is created here and imported?
By volume, it looks to be about 2/3, I reckon, that I'm making. Of that, I'm actually importing some wood chip to make it as well. So the materials, it might be about half the materials coming from here.
Okay.
Which is not coming only from the vegetable garden, but hedgerows that we cut.
Right.
And also, Ben, I'm totally happy to put weeds on the compost heap, like docks,
Marigolds,
buttercups.
yeah. I guess when it's getting up to that sort of temperature, you know.
Well, that helps, but actually I've done bindweed in a cold compost heap, and it's not invincible. You know, well, if you keep putting new stuff on top, even if your heap's not hot, eventually it runs out of juice.
I guess so, yeah. But that's pretty good though, like half the material. And,
well, I'm happy, and I'm selling a lot, and you know, my customers don't return their poo. See, what I find with these heaps here, because this is quite a big operation for bigger than most people might want in their gardens, and these get a bit too hot and a bit anaerobic in the middle.
Oh, right.
And that's why I got this pipe here, because
I see, get some air in there.
Yeah, particularly once we've finished adding, which will be fairly soon.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can
Gosh,
see it.
look at that.
Steam
Yeah.
out there.
Cook your porridge in there, I'm sure.
We use the same principle in turning them once. We turn only once, but that helps to get a bit more air in.
Yeah.
But I've got the pallet bays up there.
Oh, yes.
We line the sides with cardboard. That helps to keep the warmth and moisture in.
It's beautifully low tech, isn't it? Because these you can pick up pretty cheaply, pretty widely available just about still.
Yeah.
Cardboard, obviously, plenty of Amazon deliveries, and then you got your stuff. Yeah. So
the only difference, well, it's smaller, but also it hasn't got a roof over while we're making it. I really value the roof to keep the rain out.
I see. So once you've filled it, then the roof goes on here. Yeah.
Bits of corrugated, so just take it
So
off
how
one of
old's
the
this
bits
stuff
here.
in here then? This is
6 or 7 months. Yeah.
right. Wow, look at that.
Yeah.
Oh, is it weird to say? It just smells like so beautiful. Look at that.
It's nicely aerated.
Isn't it? Yeah.
And
some
you know,
worms in there.
yeah,
look.
worms. They're turning it to worm compost.
Properly alive. Yeah.
So that's what we turned into here from there about 2 months ago, and this one was the heap that was being made while that was happening, and it's now been maturing for about 6 weeks since we finished it.
Wow,
and
look at that. Yeah.
We'll turn that from here into the middle.
What's under here, Charles? It feels like we're unwrapping a beautiful present.
It's my wormery.
Oh yeah, wow.
Anaerobic.
Gosh.
Caminea.
Yeah.
So I'm giving them anything really. It's stuff which is half decomposed.
Yeah.
Results. The result I want is the worm cast.
Yeah.
Because I've noticed with potting compost, it really improves if you can get some.
I see. So this is super concentrated compost. This is like the
and full of enzymes and you know, when you're making potting compost, you need it concentrated because you're not using much, and it's one little cell is growing amazing plants.
Yeah.
So the worm casts are brilliant for that, but only about 10%. But yeah, I just keep it in balance. As far as possible. And actually here in this bin, we've got some of this compost as well as some of our other homemade compost.
Oh wow.
And apart from being a bit wet, it's looking pretty nice.
That looks gorgeous. Wow. I see you've obviously have to put up the armoury like everyone else against pests, and you got this here for what, carrot fly, obviously?
Also rabbits, actually.
Oh, rabbits,
yeah,
right.
I've got rabbits here, and this is definitely one of their favourite foods.
Yeah.
So it's planted in Enviromesh, and before that, I lost the first sowing here to slugs.
Oh really? Wow.
Well,
it's reassuring to know that the sort of that you lose crops to pests like that as well.
There's very few, but I do find carrots are the most difficult, aren't they? The seeds are so tiny.
Sometimes you have to re-sow a few times to pick that window of when finally they'll take
absolutely.
off. Yeah.
And as you can see, it's mostly successful this time.
Yeah. One of my big problems is leaf miner. My chard and beetroot every year, it's more cosmetic, but it's just relentless.
Yeah, I don't have an answer for that.
No,
but I do find here, maybe because it's a bit bigger garden, it's kind of dilutes the pests.
Do you think a bit of more airflow as well helps blow them through?
Absolutely, and same with carrot root fly even actually. I think more wind blowing through can be good. So in a small garden, it's more.
Yeah,
difficult.
mine's very sheltered, so I think that's the problem. Charles, I see we've got some rust here on the garlic. Do you think these will come good? They're pretty healthy plants otherwise, aren't they?
They've grown very well, yeah. They went in the ground 30th September actually, and I sowed mustard at the same time, which grew up really fast. It's a kind of
see
green
like
manure.
residues of it here, can't you?
Yeah, that's it.
And then you've also got
killed by frost.
celeriac in there as well. It's really cramming so much in. This is amazing.
Absolutely pack it in. But the rust, I was stripping a bit off here. Horrible, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it's just depressing the final harvest because it means there's less green leaves on the plant. But because they've had a long time to grow and they've got quite fat stems, so I'll get a harvest okay.
Yeah.
But I've got some in the polytunnel where I do deliberately because it doesn't get so much rust in there. And they're definitely bigger and stronger and they're mature earlier.
The sheer moistness of the air out here, do you think?
It's something like
so
blight actually,
wetter,
exactly. It's constant rain in the spring seems to make worse rust.
At least we'll be getting a good crop from them, nevertheless. Charles, this is such a beautiful area, but you're telling me this was pastured just, 3 or 4 months ago?
Yeah, late January. Now it's 20th May. So basically what we do is actually mow it a bit first, just to make the ground easier to level out the compost.
Yeah, so it's more level, yeah.
I got a 2-ton lorry, dropped 2 tons of green waste compost in the middle there. So actually that made it quite quick to spread, maybe just over an inch or so, maybe an inch and a half. And then another lorry came along with 2 cubic meters of mushroom compost. Okay. Which also is spread on top.
Which one's superior in your opinion and why the mix?
I prefer the mushroom compost. It's got a bit more nutrition. But green waste compost varies so much, and actually the guy who brings mine is pretty good. Very little plastic. Yeah. It's sieved to 10 mil, so it's quite fine. Yeah. Then we put the plastic on top, but because even in February, warm February, the weeds were growing through that much compost, which is about 3 inches maybe. Yeah. And so already you could see they would just re-establish because we're going from a really weedy pasture with strong plants to this, and so the plastic is just making sure the weeds die. Earlier this week, I have help here. I got a full-time guy and another helper some days. So they rolled back the plastic, and what did we find? Just like tons of slugs and snails.
Oh no!
So there was a big harvest of those. Yeah. And get it all.
You're
cleaned
literally
up.
walking through, just hand picking them to kind of clear it a bit. Yeah.
This is old plastic. This is 4 years old, and it's got the planting holes from the previous years already.
I see. Yeah.
So we've got another sheet on top, which
to
is
cover
also
the holes in the plastic.
Yeah, that's it. And it was between the 2 plastics. There were tons of these slugs.
I see.
Anyway, they sorted that out and put the single sheet back, and we've used the same holes put in these plants 5 days ago. So these plants are only 3.5 weeks old actually. The squash and the corn, which is for dry corn, in fact.
Is it? Oh right, like so dent corn. Yeah. So what squash variety is it
This is Crown Prince this end and Curry. Up that end. So earlier harvest there and later harvest here.
That's great.
And I mean, I'm no good fan of using plastic more than I need to, but this, being like a 4-year-old sheet.
Yeah. I mean, you can see it's got plenty of life left in it yet. So
it's UV treated, so it doesn't degrade fast.
Okay, that's important,
12
isn't
years.
it? Yeah. And what will you be doing with the dried corn? What's the plan? You're going to grind it up? Yeah, make your own polenta.
Yeah.
Wow,
polenta.
Amazing.
It's painted mountain, so it's quite red.
Oh, there's the pretty kind of glass gem one, isn't it? The kind of colourful one. Yeah.
I mean, normally I start no dig with cardboard on weeds and compost on top of the cardboard.
So accessible to everyone. Everyone's got cardboard. So
and the cardboard decomposes within about 2 months. So here, just for example, 4 months ago, this was just for a demo. I got this little pack, and I put cardboard on and only 2-inch 5-centimetre compost. We did need to remove 2 or 3 dandelions because they're so vigorous here, and they were going through. Using a trowel, get out most of the root, but not all of it.
And the other thing I'm noticing, Charles, is down here. That's an incredibly attractive edge you've got here. How do you keep these all so clean like that, those edges?
Okay, well, firstly, it does help to keep the grass short. So mowing once a week reduces the vigour of the plant roots trying to come in. But we still, they're always moving, aren't they? So either long handle shears, every 2 weeks, say, and then maybe every month using the half moon.
Oh, okay.
edger.
So it's just a question of getting the half moon out and just being meticulous.
You can go along almost at walking speed, you know, just it's not a deep cut.
Yeah,
it's just a slither.
Kind of. Wow. Charles, I've seen this from so many of your own videos. This is really the nub of it all, and you've got so much in here. Oh wow.
Well, I'm really aware of the importance of space management and propagation, and how I think many module trays and cells are too big actually. Big because look at this. This is French beans. They're probably sown about 2 weeks ago. There's 60 cells in that plug tray.
Many people think that's way too small for a bean seed, but obviously not.
This is really working. These are pretty much ready to go in now.
Yeah, they've got a great root system, haven't they? Yeah.
Just about 2 weeks old.
Yeah, lovely stuff.
And they pop out easily. Because this is a feature of the trays I designed. You know, I want this to be just totally practical. I never wash or clean them between uses. Use them many times in a year.
See, that astonishes me. I've heard you say this before. I never clean it. And there's the people there with the cleaning fluid, the J's fluid or something, washing them out and making sure there's no disease left on. But you're breaking another rule, aren't you?
Yeah, it's all microbes are good. They all interrelate and everything like that. And big seeds. So peas we do multi-sown beetroot, multi-sown onions in these as well. And I overfill them. You can see that.
See, it's really overflowing. You don't brush it off.
No, it was so funny. I was teaching a group last summer, and one of them was doing one of the trainings in horticulture, the qualification, and she said, "Oh, I'd be failed for filling a tray like
really
because they told you meant to leave it." But I want to get more compost in there.
Yeah,
but
it
still,
makes sense, doesn't it?
2
really?
litres
Yeah,
works,
yeah. What are these here? These what's here? Spring
these
onions
are,
or
leeks actually.
Leeks, yeah.
Look very similar, multi-sown leeks.
This is another great example of multi-sown. You got sort of up to 6 seedlings there. And
Actually, I'll thin them out
you
a
will
bit.
thin them out.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
want 4. I want 4. So
yeah.
it's about at this stage. I'll take a few out like that and get down to 4. But on anything between 2 and 4 is good. But that means in there, say on average 3, you've got 180 leeks.
Wow.
In that
Yeah.
size of an A4.
Amazing, isn't it? When you put it like that. And so how many individual plants must we have here? Do a bit of maths quickly. At least 2,000 maybe approaching?
Yeah, at
maybe
least
1,500
at any one time. Almost everything else you see in here goes straight from these module cells
Straight
in
out.
the ground.
Yeah.
And that makes it really quick. 'Cause
Absolutely. Yeah.
I've also designed a long
This
handle
is the
dibber.
famous dibber. Yeah, I love this. Yeah.
So that makes it really quick to plant.
Yeah,
You just
absolutely.
make a little hole.
Yeah,
Pop it
I
in.
see you've got some vintage plug trays here as well. These guys, can you show us like some of your oldest ones? They must be like old friends that kind of come out year after year.
These ones, this one dates back to the 1980s.
What? You're kidding me?
Yeah, seriously.
Look at that.
That's because in the 80s it was pretty standard to use polystyrene. And it was a 40 cell and it's lost bits over the years, you can see. But actually still use it.
Look at that.
And
That's amazing.
it's
As old as me, almost.
Fundamental design, I think, of these that's so good of these is the size of the hole at the bottom.
Yeah, so easy to get them out, aren't they?
But good drainage.
Good drainage.
And people who've never done this, they think, well, how come the potting mix doesn't all fall out the bottom? But once you've done it, you realise it all sticks together
That's
nicely.
it. Yeah. 1985, guys. Wow. You are continually trialing things. You never get bored of it, and I love that. And you're doing a little comparison here of potting mixes or composts.
Yeah.
One's clearly doing better than the other, isn't it? What's going on here, Charles?
This is from the same makers, and this is their normal, quite cheaper, what I would call chemical compost. So it's got chemical fertilisers in. But that's standard practice. This is the one that's most widely available. This one is from the same company, but it's organic.
Yeah. Look at the difference in those roots as well. It's so even and kind of...
Yeah.
And you see that one's it's clearly struggling for some nutrients already, isn't
exactly.
it?
Well, I think it's a bit the issue with the peat-free thing. And, I think there's a limit to how far we should go with this because we definitely want to go in that direction. But for many people, it's tying one hand behind the back. And if you'd done all your sowings and plantings this year using this compost, you would have lost a month. Yeah. You might have even compromised some harvests and not got them all together.
I guess if you're a new gardener, you think, oh, this is a bit rubbish, isn't it? It could be really put off, couldn't you? What sort of temperature does this get to? I suppose it gets really hot, you have to let it cool down and then you put your seedlings on, or do you kind of push your luck? You don't wait,
Maybe the first few days, it does off-gas a bit with a bit of ammonia gases. That's in 20th of February, we fill it, and that's fresh horse manure. It's got this rack on top, so actually that stops the seedlings getting too hot.
I guess so, and I guess you could always raise them up a bit if it was too hot.
Yeah.
So do you dig it all out at the end of the season and completely refill? Yeah.
Well, in about 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So early June, it's done its job actually.
yeah.
So it goes out to a pallet heap out there.
Okay.
Finishes fermenting. We'll use it next year in the polytunnel for tomatoes and things.
Oh, great.
On the ground.
Yeah. And there's a bit of talk of like herbicides that the horses ingest and that killing off things. You just have to know the owners of the horses very well and make
absolutely.
sure.
I quiz them as much as possible.
Yeah.
But you still can't be sure.
Yeah.
And so what we do out there is actually grow some tomatoes in it, you know.
Do like a test run just to check. That's a good idea, isn't it?
And so I'm sure before I spread it in the polytunnel.
Makes sense.
In here, the tomatoes growing in here, they've got some of that horse manure from last year.
You're really cramming things in here, Charles. You've got garlic and then what, cucumbers here?
Yeah.
And all kind of like interplanted.
And the garlic went in October, and it just grew slowly between winter salads, which is really my main crop here because they're more profitable actually than summer cucumbers and tomatoes. But we pick the winter salads all winter long, and then they rise to flower during April, roughly.
Right.
And then we have got a bit of time to put on the compost.
Okay, that's when it goes on, yeah.
Yeah, here we put it on in early May as compared to November, December outside. And then plant everything you see here now, including the marigolds, which have been eaten quite a bit by woodlice, I reckon.
Right, yeah.
Bit of basil, celery, that was a sort of bit of a catch crop.
So celery like needs really, really moist soil, but you've got it under cover here. So is that kind of watered? You have to water that especially?
Yeah, water that a lot.
Yeah.
Of all the vegetables I grow, it's the one I water the most by far.
Yeah.
If you want to get good celery, that's
sort of basically a bog plant, isn't it? That's the thing.
Yeah,
I guess.
exactly.
Yeah.
And then just a few French beans for early harvest, which this year I think might really pay off.
And what are these? These Welsh onions or?
Yeah, no, that's it's onions that I selected my best ones, put them in the ground. That's for seed.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So that temporary shelving there for the leek plants, but that will come. Then these beautiful.
They are stunning. I do love onion flowers. Yeah.
And because it's undercover, I got some outside as well. But the thing about raising your own seed is often they're seeding quite late in the summer when it's quite wet. Yeah. And you can easily lose the quality of the seed.
I see. That's why they're under here. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're not just growing 1 or 2 plants here. You've got like about 10 there.
Yeah, 10 I would say is minimum really to get the cross pollination, a strong gene pool.
Gotcha.
I think you know what I mean.
And home safe seed, like you were saying, lasts a bit longer because it's obviously you know when it's been harvested and
it's fresh.
You can totally.
You know it's fresh. Because when seed is sold to you and you think it's fresh seed, but it's packeted year ending. That's what they put on the label. So you don't
sneaky. Chard is always like the poster boy of the vegetable world, isn't it? These beautiful stems. And all of this is because essentially you're feeding the soil rather than the junk food, if you like, of sort of artificial fertilisers. Is that kind of a fair statement?
I think that's a spot on comparison, actually. And I think plants like us, they're healthier for being fed naturally, not with synthetic anything. And like behind me here, that's what I would call the annual dose of fertility we're putting on. And it's sometimes called feeding soil. It's better called feeding soil life. Really.
Yeah.
And so there's some nutrients in the compost, but also there's a lot of organic matter and microbes that are feeding all the organisms.
And really, this is all your vegetables are getting is this annual top up and nothing else.
Yeah, that I don't give any feeds or fertiliser.
Yeah.
I do use a bit of seaweed though, and I think that has a place because trace elements. Maybe we don't know. I never know for sure. Mostly we're spreading it here in November, December, and then the rain is washing through. Like this year, we've had so much rain. So all of the compost we put on before the winter has been thoroughly washed. And for me, that's one of the big differences between fertiliser and compost. That fertiliser will leach away mostly, but compost it doesn't. It clearly doesn't. Look at this. And we don't put any more on in the summer either, because we're doing second cropping. So like this chard already has some. We put it between the plants, and then in 2 weeks' time I'll twist it out because it's finishing. It's going to flower. And I've got the new chard ready to come on, but we'll put a second planting here. It might be French beans or something, but no new compost. I am really keen to encourage anyone, if there's anyone watching this video who's never grown a plant in their life, have a go. And you might have some failures, but don't let that put you off.
It's a bit of a cliche, but it is so true. Every failure is genuinely a lesson, isn't it?
We're growing on a third of an acre here,
Yeah.
about £35,000 worth of food in a year. So, you know, that's a nice number.
Yes.
But I did used to get a lot of questions, like people would say, well, why bother growing your own? I can just go down the supermarket and buy it so cheaply. There's a lot of research from nutritionists, isn't there, coming out
there
about
is, yeah.
the supermarket food doesn't have the biome,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
microbes that we need. It's not only about what it looks like,
Yeah, yeah.
and sometimes it looks better in the supermarket, but your own food that might have a few imperfections.
Yeah.
You know, I was giving a talk to a group of primary school children once, and I said, so actually one of the best things you can do is eat a bit of soil. And it's like, wow, they all just erupted, and the teachers were saying, oh.
I love it. Charles, I feel like we've all learnt so much today. You're very generous with your knowledge and time, I have to say. So thank you so much.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you.